My name is Claire Donovan, and to this day, I wonder if I deserve to be happy after what I did. Every time I hear a slow song, the kind that wraps two people in silence in the middle of a crowded room, my heart tightens, not because I don't have someone to dance with, but because deep down, I still hear my mother's voice saying, "Sweetheart, are you really going to leave me alone?" And I did. I really did. I grew up in a poor neighborhood in Newark, New Jersey, where windows didn't just keep out the cold. They kept out dreams, too. My mother was a seamstress, alone, exhausted, but strong. And me, I just wanted to escape. The first chance I got, I grabbed it like a lifeboat in the middle of a shipwreck. I earned a dance scholarship in New York and never looked back. Not once. Until now. Because fate, in its cruel sense of irony, gave me everything I ever dreamed of, just when I most needed to face what I left behind. Stories like Claire's are the heart of this channel. Here, you'll find real lives, hard choices, and all those emotions we feel but don't always dare to speak out loud. If any of that resonates with you, hit subscribe, because every story has something to teach us, even the ones that aren't our own. The sound of dance shoes hitting the wooden floor was the only thing alive in that rehearsal night. Claire spun with her eyes closed, as if dancing were the only way not to sink. The wall clock showed 11:17 p.m. The studio was empty, except for her. The mirror in front reflected a sweaty, trembling woman, but one with her chin held high. Each step seemed to say, "You don't know me. You have no idea what I did to get here." Suddenly, a door creaked open. Ethan leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. His oversized hoodie was wet from the light rain falling outside. He watched her for a few seconds before speaking in a low voice. "Claire, are you trying to dance or to run?" She didn't stop. She spun again and again until she tripped over her own foot and fell to her knees on the floor. "Damn it!" she shouted, punching the wooden floor in frustration. Ethan rushed to her, but Claire motioned with her hand for him not to touch her. "No!" "Leave me alone. I'm fine. I just need to get this damn sequence right." "Claire, look at me," Ethan said, kneeling in front of her. "You're not messing up the steps. You're blocked, and it's not new. Ever since this new show started, you've been absent, cold, like you don't even want to be here." Claire stayed silent, eyes fixed on the floor. Sweat ran down her forehead, mixing with the tears she was trying to hold back. "I'm just tired, that's all," she whispered. "No." "You're scared," Ethan said. "I know you. There's something eating away at you, something you're not saying." She stood up slowly, wobbling, and grabbed a towel from the windowsill. She turned her back to him, watching the rain outside. "Ethan, have you ever done something so wrong that you don't even know where to start fixing it?" "Claire, who did you leave behind?" She turned around, facing him with a look that held pain, anger, and guilt. "I left everything. My hometown, my house, my mom." Ethan said nothing. He waited. He knew there was more. "I left 7 years ago. I never went back, not even for my grandma's funeral. I didn't call on Christmas, not even on my birthday. And you know what's worse?" Claire bit her lip, eyes filled with tears. "She sent me a letter last year. It said, 'I still wait for you. I'll always be sitting on the porch when you come home.' And I burned it, Ethan." Silence, long, painful. "Why?" Claire hesitated. Her lips trembled. But she didn't answer. She walked to her bag and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper, handed it to Ethan. "This morning, another message from her." He read it aloud. "Hi, Claire, it's Mom. I just wanted to know if you still dance. One day you promised you'd dance for me. I still remember that. I hope you're okay. I love you." Ethan handed the note back gently. "You still haven't told me why you left." Claire took a deep breath, wiped her face. "Because if I tell you, you'll look at me the same way she did that day, and I don't think I can survive that again." Ethan nodded slowly, his eyes full of compassion. Then don't say anything now. Just remember, no one can truly dance with guilt weighing on their shoulders. One day, you'll have to take that pain off your feet. She sat back down, exhausted, stared at the ceiling for a long moment, and for the first time, didn't answer. She just let her body fall back, lying on the cold floor, listening to the rain tapping the studio roof. In that moment, she wasn't a dancer. She wasn't a daughter. She wasn't an artist. She was just a woman, trying to breathe without drowning. The sun had barely touched Manhattan's buildings when Claire left her apartment. She wore her grey rehearsal hoodie, hood up over her tied-back hair, earbuds blocking out the world. But even with classical music flooding her ears, her mother's voice echoed inside her like a forgotten refrain. It doesn't matter the stage. To me, you'll always be the little girl dancing barefoot in the living room. She walked to the corner cafe, where she always had her bitter espresso before rehearsals. Ethan was already there, newspaper open, his expression more closed off than usual. When she approached, he didn't smile. "You disappeared yesterday after lying on the floor. I waited for you to leave the studio." "I needed to be alone," she replied, pulling down her hood. Ethan folded the paper and set it on the table. "Claire, you know I'll never pressure you to talk, but you need to face this before opening night destroys you." She stayed quiet, watching the steam rise from her fresh coffee. After a few seconds, she saw me dancing with a man. It was a rehearsal, an audition for a European tour company. I had no idea she was visiting that day. She showed up unannounced and just stood in the doorway watching. Ethan frowned. "Okay, and?" "The man was married, much older. My teacher." Claire sighed, looking away. "She didn't just see the dancing." Ethan said nothing at first. He picked up his cup with both hands, as if the warmth helped him process it. "She got mad. She cried but didn't yell, didn't judge. She just pulled away. Her disappointment was silent, like a goodbye that didn't need to be said, and I did worse. Instead of going after her, instead of explaining, I stayed. I stayed on stage. I stayed with him." She let out a bitter laugh. "And you know what's crazier? He dropped me 2 weeks later, said my emotional energy was affecting my stage presence." "Asshole," Ethan muttered. "Yeah, but not as much of an asshole as I was to her. When I came home that weekend, she had changed the locks." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "And you never tried again?" "I tried, Ethan. I called, wrote letters, but she also decided she didn't want to see the daughter who chose the stage over the truth, and honestly, I don't blame her." The silence between them was thick, like the air before a storm. The cafe was full, but at that table, an entire universe of sorrow floated between words. "Claire, have you ever thought about going back?" She hesitated. "No, because I know that if I cross that door again, I'll have to face the version of myself I buried 7 years ago. And I don't know if she's still alive." Ethan leaned over the table. "Then why do you keep that box of letters hidden under your bed?" She looked at him, took a deep breath, and for the first time her eyes turned red, full. "Because part of me still hopes she'll forgive me, even if it's just in her eyes, even if she never says a word." Ethan didn't reply. He just held her hand. And for the first time in a long while, Claire didn't pull away. Hours later at rehearsal, Claire danced with brutal intensity. Her body seemed to slice through the air. The other dancers watched her with a mix of awe and unease. Madame Rousseau stared silently, her gaze locked on Claire. When the music ended, everyone applauded, but the director's voice was cold. "Bravo, Claire, but tell me, are you dancing to impress us or to reach yourself?" Claire didn't answer. On her way out, walking alone through the wet streets of New York, she saw a figure sitting on the sidewalk, covered in an old sheet. A homeless man, a broken violin resting on his lap. He looked at her, smiled, and said, "You dance with sad eyes. That's rare." She froze. Her eyes filled up, and before he could say anything else, Claire walked away quickly, her heart pounding as if she were on stage. Only now, the stage was the whole world. The afternoon faded with a warm orange glow over Manhattan's buildings as Claire stepped out of the theater after rehearsal. Her body ached, not just from the exhausting hours of repetition, but from something deeper, more internal, as if her soul had been doing physical labor. The air still carried the scent of the morning's dry rain, mixed with hot asphalt and the aroma of freshly roasted coffee from the cafe across the street. She was walking slowly, backpack slung over her shoulders, when she heard Claire Donovan. She froze. The voice was male, deep, but with a familiarity that sent a chill down her neck. She turned cautiously. The man standing in front of her looked to be in his early 40s in a simple suit with a tired face, but his eyes held something that undid her. Memory. "Sorry, do I know you?" she asked, swallowing hard. "Probably not, but I know your mother." Claire felt the ground vanish beneath her feet. "Who are you?" "My name is Michael Reed. I work at the community center in Newark." "Your mother?" "She's been volunteering there for the past couple of years, helps in the kitchen, organizes donations. She talks about you almost every day." Claire looked away. Her heart was pounding in her throat. Is she okay?" Michael hesitated. "Well enough. But she hasn't been the same since you left. She says she holds no grudge. But there isn't a single day she doesn't look at the gate at 6 o'clock. Claire tightened her grip on her backpack. Her throat closed up. "Did she send you here?" "No. She doesn't know I came. But last night she collapsed during her evening shift. She's in the hospital, stable. Still, she whispered your name in her sleep." "I can't." Claire stepped back. "I can't see her right now. I'm not ready." Michael didn't back down. "No one ever is. But I came because I thought you deserved to know. And because, no matter what happened between you two, she still believes you'll come back." Claire lowered her head. Her hands trembled. She tried to hold back the tears but couldn't. I ruined everything. She trusted me, loved me more than anyone. And I chose the stage, a man, a life that wasn't even real. Michael watched her with a calm, steady gaze. "She only told me the basics, that you chose dance, that she didn't know how to handle it. But do you know what she says most often?" Claire looked up, eyes teary. "What?" "That if you ever come back, she wants to dance with you. Just once. Even if it's barefoot in the backyard. She says she dreams about it every week." Claire collapsed onto a bench on the sidewalk. People passed by, indifferent. Michael sat next to her, saying nothing more, just breathing alongside her. After a few minutes, she whispered, "Do you think she'll forgive me?" Michael took a deep breath before answering. "She already has, Claire. The real question is, can you forgive yourself?" She closed her eyes, let the air fill her lungs slowly, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was running. Just tired. That night, lying in bed, Claire opened the box under her bed. She read every letter, one by one, in silence, like prayer, like listening to a song she'd known since childhood. And at the end of the last one, she did something she hadn't done in years. She wrote, "Hi, Mom. I still dance, and I was wondering, do you still have a pair of slippers for me?" It was past midnight when Claire woke to the sound of a distant honk and flashing lights outside. She got up from the couch where she had fallen asleep, her mother's letter still resting on her lap. The apartment was silent. Ethan hadn't come home. The city seemed to hold its breath, as if expecting something. She went to the kitchen, turned on the kettle, and pulled an old envelope from the back of the drawer. Only her name was written on the front, in shaky letters, Claire Marie Donovan. It was the last letter she had received from her mother before completely cutting ties. She had never had the courage to open it, But before the water could boil, the intercom buzzed, a harsh sound that froze her. "Hello? Claire Donovan?" "Yes. Who is this?" "This is the Newark Police Department. We need to speak with you. It's urgent." Claire went silent for a few seconds. "My mother. Did something happen to her? We'd prefer to talk in person. We're sending an officer to your address." She hung up without saying another word. Her hands shook, her eyes wide. She sat down on the kitchen floor. The words from her mother's last letter danced in her mind like ghosts. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang. A man in a dark suit, with a visible badge, stepped into the apartment with a neutral expression. "Miss Donovan, sorry for the hour. I know this is difficult. Please, tell me what happened." He took a deep breath. "Your mother is stable, but there was an incident at the community center where she works. Someone broke in during the night. They forced the pantry open, vandalized the place. Your mother tried to stop them and got slightly injured." Claire felt a knot in her stomach. Why are you telling me this?" "Because we found torn-up letters from you scattered on the floor, and among the destroyed items, there was a diary. A diary where she wrote a lot about you." Claire covered her mouth. The tears came without warning. "She kept all that?" "Yes, and something else." The officer pulled a small envelope from his pocket. It had her name on it, but your address in New York. Claire took it with trembling hands. Inside was an old photo. She was a little girl, dancing in the living room in an oversized t-shirt, smiling. In the background, her mother sat watching her, eyes full of tears. On the back of the photo, a handwritten line, "Even when you're far away, I still hear your footsteps in the hallway." Claire broke down. She cried like she hadn't since she was a teenager. Soul-deep sobs, guilt and longing pouring out. The officer stood up, respecting the silence. Before leaving, he said, "I know you have unfinished business, but your mother is still here, waiting. I thought you'd want to know, before you no longer have a choice." Alone in the apartment, Claire held the photo with both hands. The sound of the subway passing outside felt distant, like the time she had lost. The next morning, Claire didn't show up for rehearsal. She didn't answer Ethan's messages. She took a bus straight to Newark. No dance shoes, no costumes, just herself and that photo. Sitting in the back row, eyes glued to the road, she thought only one thing. If she looks me in the eyes, I'll know if I'm still her daughter. The Newark bus station looked smaller than Claire remembered. The ceiling still leaked in places, and the air smelled of grease and wet paper. She stepped off the bus with hesitant steps, as if every meter walked was a decision at the edge of a cliff. Her phone was turned off. Her backpack felt like it was filled with stones. Outside, the sky was overcast, and a cold breeze moved through the streets without hurry. Claire walked to the hospital. She knew the way by heart. Every street was a ghost, every corner a buried memory. At the hospital reception, the tired-looking attendant asked, "Patient's name?" "Elizabeth Donovan." "My mother." The woman typed into the computer, chipped red nails clacking on the keys. "Room 312, West Wing, last bed down the hall." Claire nodded a silent thank you and walked. The corridors smelled of cheap disinfectant and fear. The sounds of machines, quick footsteps, and muffled voices created an almost surreal atmosphere. At the door, she stopped. The frosted glass kept her from seeing clearly. All she could make out was a silhouette lying in bed, breathing, alive. Claire rested her forehead against the door for a few seconds, took a deep breath, then knocked. Twice, softly. "You can come in," said a fragile but unmistakable voice. She opened the door slowly. The room was dim, lit only by the monitor's soft beeps and the faint light from the window. On the bed, her mother, older, thinner, but with the same eyes. They stared at each other. Long seconds passed. Not a word. "Hi, Mom," Claire whispered. Elizabeth blinked as if unsure it was real. "Claire, is it really you?" "It's me." Her mother slowly sat up with help from the bed rail. Her breathing was labored. The silence was unbearable. "You look tired," Elizabeth said softly. "I am." Claire stepped a little closer. "I haven't slept well. In 7 years." They both laughed, short, nervous, bitter. "I thought I'd never see you again. I thought I didn't deserve to be seen." Elizabeth looked out the window. "Why now?" Claire hesitated, sat in the chair beside the bed. "Because I read all your letters, last night, one by one, and I realized that no matter how much time passed, I still heard your voice, in every step, in every piece of music, even when I pretended not to." Elizabeth breathed deeply. Her eyes were glassy, but she stayed composed. "And what did you hear, Claire? Be honest." Claire looked down, her eyes red. "I heard you telling me I was better than that I could make mistakes, but I had to be brave enough to fix them. And I was a coward, Mom, a real coward." Elizabeth ran her fragile fingers over the blanket. "You danced for him?" "I did." Claire nodded. "But not out of love, out of fear. I wanted so badly to get out of here, to become someone, to prove something to myself, that I lost who I was in the process." Elizabeth looked at her with an expression not of anger, but of a rare kind of sorrow. "You were my little girl, my companion, my rock. And one day, you were just gone, and all that was left was silence. A silence that screamed your name every night." Claire was crying now, uncontrollably, hands clutching her knees. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want to be able to look at you again and know that you still see me as your daughter, even if it's only for a minute." Elizabeth reached out with effort. Claire took her hand like it was her entire life. "I never stopped seeing you. Not when you burned my letters. Not when you ignored my calls. I always knew you still lived right here." She touched her own chest. Claire rested her forehead on her mother's hands, like a child, like before. They stayed that way for a time that couldn't be measured in minutes. Until, with a barely audible voice, Elizabeth whispered, "Do you still dance?" Claire smiled through tears. "I still dance, Mum, but it's the first time I'm dancing with a clean heart." The late afternoon sun poured into the hospital room in soft, golden light. Elizabeth was asleep, her breathing finally stable, her face serene in a way Claire hadn't seen in years. Sitting beside the bed, Claire watched her silently. That woman, who now looked so fragile, was the same one who had carried the weight of a home alone, sewing late into the night, raising a child without ever raising her voice. Claire held a black notebook she had found inside her mother's bag while searching for a hairbrush. It had no name on the cover. It looked old. Curious, she opened it slowly. The handwriting was unmistakable. Her mother's, small, firm. But the content was not what she expected. May 17th. "Today, Claire told me she wants to leave. She said dance is the only thing that makes her breathe. I told her I understood, but inside I broke. How can I hold on to someone who was born to fly, when I myself never left this place?" Claire turned the page, her eyes fixed. June 3rd. She danced with him again. I saw. It wasn't just the dancing. But what can I say? I was young once too. I also got lost in the wrong gaze. The difference is, she has courage, and I had fear. Her heart beat faster. Each line revealed a version of her mother she had never known, not the hurt woman, but the one who understood more than she ever let on. Then came the blow on the 3rd page. "I can't tell her the truth. It would destroy her. Better she hates me, thinks I was cruel, but if she ever returns, if she ever opens this notebook, let her know the man who pulled her away from me was her father." Claire froze. Her fingers trembled. The world seemed to shrink around her. She read it again and again, hoping the words would somehow change. Yes, he came back after years, said he wanted to see her dance, said he wanted to help her. I was weak. I let her get close, and then, once she was involved, He disappeared. Again, like he always did. The notebook fell into her lap. Her heart pounded like a war drum. The teacher, the older man, the one who made her believe she was special, he was more than a manipulator. He was the father she never knew. The one her mother had always avoided mentioning, and who, in silence, had allowed the daughter to love him without knowing who he really was. Claire stumbled into the hospital bathroom, splashed water on her face, leaned against the sink. The woman in the mirror was someone else now, a woman in ruins, a daughter lost in a maze of unspoken truths. Minutes later, she returned to the room with the notebook in her hands. Elizabeth was still asleep. Claire sat back down, breathing deeply. "Mom, I read it all." The woman opened her eyes slowly, looked at her daughter. She didn't try to deny it or pretend. "I thought it was the right thing, that hiding it would protect you. You let me think he was just a lover, a mistake, when in reality, he was my father." Elizabeth nodded, eyes brimming with tears. "Because he didn't deserve that title. He didn't raise you. He was never there. He only showed up when he found out you were talented. I wanted to protect you from the same kind of abandonment I lived through." Claire stared at her, face tight. "And now? What am I supposed to do with that, Mom?" Elizabeth touched her daughter's hand gently. "You dance, you cry, you burn it all on stage, the way only you can, because his blood may run in your veins, but your heart is yours, and it's beautiful, Claire." The tears ran down both their faces, mother and daughter, finally side by side, not because of guilt, but because of truth. Claire walked the streets of Newark with a different stride. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't an escape. It was heavy, the kind of weight you don't see, but feel in your shoulders, your spine, deep in your eyes. She had spent the morning with her mother, who now slept peacefully in the hospital. And Claire, she walked like someone trying to stitch back together a world that had torn inside. On her phone, dozens of unread messages. Ethan, Madame Rousseau, the company. Everyone wanting to know where she was, if she would return to rehearsal, to the premiere, to the life she had built so fiercely. But Claire, she still didn't know. She sat on a park bench where she used to play as a child. The same rusty playground, the same cracked benches, but now she noticed something she never had before. People, real people, mothers with children, teens practicing dance steps on the pavement, older women selling homemade bread. A woman approached slowly, sitting beside Claire. "You're Claire, right?" Claire turned, surprised. "Yes. Do we know each other?" "Not personally, but your mom talks about you all the time at the center. Says she has a daughter in New York who dances like the floor is made of clouds." Claire gave a shy smile. "She says that with pride, even with a broken heart." The two sat in silence for a while. Then the woman pulled a flyer from her bag and handed it to Claire. "We're trying to open a community dance school here in the neighborhood. Nothing fancy, just an old warehouse we got from the city. We need everything, mirrors, sound system, teachers, but the dream is already alive." Claire read the flyer. Simple, handmade, but full of soul. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything, just think about it. Your mom always said you had a gift, but maybe your gift is even bigger than the stage." Claire tucked the flyer into her bag with care. She sat there, watching the kids run, the wind mess up their hair, the smell of bread and earth filling the air. That night, back at the hospital, she found her mother awake, looking out the window. "You know what this reminds me of?" Elizabeth said, pointing at the streetlights. "You, dancing in the dark living room, arms wide open like you were flying. I always knew you'd fly." "And I thought flying meant leaving everything behind," Claire replied, sitting beside her. "Sometimes it does. But other times, flying means coming back to where it all began and turning it into something new." Claire pulled the flyer from her bag, showed it to her mother. "They're trying to start a dance school in the neighborhood. They want to teach kids, give them a chance, but they need help. Elizabeth looked at the paper. Her eyes lit up. That would be beautiful. I was thinking, maybe I could stay a while, help get it going, maybe teach a class, start with the basics. Elizabeth smiled carefully. And your debut, Claire? Carnegie Hall? Your name on the posters? Claire looked at her hands, then into her mother's eyes. Maybe it's time to debut in the right place, where my heart can breathe. Silence. A silence full of understanding, of complete forgiveness. The next morning, Claire replied to every message. She thanked the company. Let them know she wouldn't be coming back. Madame Rousseau sent a dry voice message. If this is what your soul needs, dance with it. But just know, talent like yours, if not used, rots. Claire listened quietly, then deleted it. She no longer wanted to live for what others expected of her. She wanted to live from what was growing inside her. The warehouse smelled of mold, grease, and old wood. Claire ran her hands along the peeling walls, trying to imagine how this place could ever become a dance studio. There was a row of broken windows, an uneven floor, and an old radio that only worked when it felt like it. But to her, there was something sacred in that space, possibility. With help from volunteers at the community center, they hung fabric over the windows, swept the floors, cleaned the cracked mirrors. In the first week, 3 shy girls showed up, 2 curious boys, and a teenager with a guarded expression named Naomi, who seemed to lead the group without saying a word. Let's start from the beginning, Claire said, playing a soft instrumental song on the radio. Dancing isn't just spinning, it's feeling. Even if you don't know the steps, I want to see you listening with your body. The body speaks, even when we're silent. The students looked at one another. Claire danced, alone, lightly. She demonstrated the basic movements. Slowly, their bodies began to respond. One step, a spin, a stumble, shy laughter. It was there, on that uneven floor, that something began to grow, but not everything was applause. As she was leaving, Claire was approached by a tall woman with a firm gaze and calloused hands. Claire Donovan? Yes. You've got the nerve to come back here and teach like nothing ever happened? Claire's eyes widened. Sorry, do I know you? Sharon Reed, Michael's sister. You used to be friends with my daughter Lauren, remember? Claire blinked. She remembered. Lauren, her best friend as a teen, who disappeared from her life when Claire left. No explanation, no goodbye. I remember Lauren. How is she? Sharon crossed her arms. At home, raising 2 kids, alone, working 3 jobs. You know what she said when she heard you were back? Now that she's got time to play nice, she wants to play dance teacher with the poor kids. Claire felt the blow like a punch to the stomach. I didn't come here to play, Ms. Reed. I came to try to fix what I can, to help. Too late. You turned your back, disappeared, never wrote, never called. My daughter cried over your absence for 2 years, and now you want to come back and be the neighborhood's savior. Claire bit her lip, took a deep breath. I don't want to be anyone's savior. I just want to start over. Durm. Sharon stared at her for a few more seconds, then turned and walked away without saying goodbye. On the way back, Claire walked slowly, eyes fixed on the ground. Sharon's words burned more than any dance critique ever had. At the hospital, she found her mother sitting up, knitting with difficulty. Everything okay, honey? Today I heard what I needed to hear, and it hurt. But I think I deserved it. Elizabeth nodded. We don't get to choose how others forgive us. All we can do is offer, wait, and keep doing good, even if no one claps. The next day, Claire returned to the warehouse. The kids were there. Naomi, as always, quiet but present. Before we dance, I want to tell you something, Claire said, looking into their eyes. I've made a lot of mistakes. I was selfish, I ran away, and some people here don't want to see me, but I'll keep coming. Because if there's one thing I've learned, It's that dancing is also a way to say sorry with your body. Naomi stepped forward, arms crossed. Does that count for us too? What do you mean? We've got anger too, sadness, a lot we're holding in. If we dance that, can it help? Claire smiled. It can, and it will. That afternoon the warehouse pulsed with energy. Feet stomped on the floor. Yells, laughter, falls, and hesitant hugs. Claire was teaching, but she was also learning. Learning not to run anymore. Learning to face things. Her days were now divided between the hospital and the warehouse. Claire woke early, prepared lessons for the kids, and in the afternoon visited room 312, where her mother was growing weaker, yet still stubborn as ever. Elizabeth didn't like seeming sick. She'd say hospitals weren't for the living. But the tests didn't lie. Her body was tired. Her organs were beginning to fail. We used Alicia Keys in class today, Claire said, holding her mother's hand. Naomi danced with rage. She cries with her body. I've never seen anything like it. Elizabeth smiled faintly. And you? Have you ever cried through dance? Not yet, but I'm close. Very close. That evening, while organizing school materials in the tiny supply room, Claire received an unexpected message. Unknown number, just 3 words. Wanna talk? Lauren. Claire felt a chill in her stomach. Her reply took minutes to write. Yes. When and where? Lauren chose to meet in front of the church from their childhood. The one where they used to rehearse for Christmas plays, where they laughed, dreamed, hid from the rain, and made plans to run away to New York. Claire arrived 10 minutes early. The place looked the same. The wooden bench still creaked. And Lauren looked different. Older, but with the same strong gaze. Tattoos now covered her arms. Her shoulders carried a whole world. Hey, Claire said, you're 7 years late. Silence. I know. And there's no excuse. I was selfish. Lauren nodded, fidgeted with her fingers. You know what hurt? Not that you left. It was that you left without telling me. Not even a note. Not looking back, and after that, you never reached out. I was ashamed, afraid. You were my roots, and I felt dirty. Lauren looked her in the eye. You danced with that guy, I knew, everyone knew, but that never mattered to me. What mattered was you shutting me out. Claire was crying now. I loved you, Lauren, like a sister. And that's why I thought sparing you was better than dragging you through my mess. Lauren took a deep breath. You didn't spare me. You erased me. The silence cut like a knife. Then Lauren pulled something from her bag, a pair of tiny ballet slippers. They're my daughter's. She wants to learn. Asked me if it was true I used to dance with a star. I told her yes. Claire smiled through tears. She can come whenever she wants. It'll be an honor. You still owe me a duet, Lauren said, standing up. Consider it scheduled. They hugged, tight, long, like 2 people coming home. The next morning, Claire arrived at the hospital with a book of poems her mother loved. But the nurse on duty greeted her with a serious face. Claire, your mother had a drop in blood pressure during the night. We had to run urgent tests. She's sedated, can't have visitors right now. Claire sat in the waiting room, the book on her lap. The same book her mother would read every time life got heavy. She closed her eyes, whispered softly, even if my feet stop, if my arms give out, my heart still dances. That afternoon, Claire gathered the students in the warehouse. Today, we're dancing for someone. Each of you choose a person, but don't say who. Keep it in your chest and let your body speak. The music began. The kids spun, leapt, stumbled, got up. And in the center, Claire. Her feet touched the floor like they were asking for forgiveness. Her arms sliced through the air like they were searching for shelter. Her face wet, her body surrendered. For the first time, she danced her own pain. And everyone there, not fully understanding why, cried with her. The sky was grey that morning. It wasn't raining, but the air held a heavy silence, as if the world already knew what was about to happen. Claire arrived at the hospital before the hallway lights were even turned on. She carried a single flower in her hand and a quiet plea in her chest. Just a little more time, just one more moment with her. The nurse greeted her with a look of sympathy. She didn't need to say anything. Room 312 was empty. Claire stopped in front of the open door. The sheets were neatly arranged, the water glass still full, the imprint of her mother's body still visible on the mattress. She walked in slowly, sat on the edge of the bed, placed the flower on the pillow, and with a trembling voice whispered, "You danced until the end, didn't you, Mum?" The tears came silently, not as despair, but as release, as someone finally handing life what they could no longer hold. At the warehouse, the students were already gathered. Lauren stood by the door, her daughter in her arms. Naomi was off in a corner, practicing steps on her own. When Claire arrived, everyone fell silent. She was different, lighter despite the pain, more whole even in pieces. "Today," she began, her voice steady, "I didn't come to teach, I came to thank you." All eyes were on her. "I spent my life trying to prove I could be someone, that I could be free, great, recognized. But here, with you, I finally understood the true stage, the real audience, the real love." She took off her shoes, stood barefoot. The cold, uneven floor seemed to welcome her. "My mother passed this morning, but before that she gave me something, not in words, in gestures. She taught me that dancing isn't about running away. It's about remembering. It's about existing despite the pain. And I want to remember her with you." The music started, a gentle instrumental, a blend of violin and piano with breaths and space between the notes. Claire closed her eyes and danced, but it wasn't a performance, it was a ritual. Her arms moved in search of air, her feet touched the floor like they were reclaiming it. Her body trembled but flowed. A dance not meant to impress, but to feel. Each movement carried years of guilt, longing, anger, love. And all of it found expression there, in front of the children, Lauren and neighbors, peeking curiously through the open door. At the end, Claire knelt in the middle of the room, breathing hard, hands on her chest, eyes full of tears. No one clapped. No one needed to. That night, she returned to the house where she was born. The same porch, the same gate. She sat in her mother's chair, took a box from her bag. Inside it, her first pair of ballet shoes and also a pair of slippers. She put both on, one on each foot, smiled and danced right there on the porch, alone for the last time, but also for the first. "My name is Claire Donovan, and now I understand that time doesn't erase what we're too afraid to face." For years, I danced as if every step were a shield, as if movement could push away the guilt, the longing, the weight of what I left behind. But I've learned that no choreography can protect us from our own heart. I left my mother, yes. I left her when she needed me most. I traded the living room of our house for the stage, traded her words for hollow applause, and I spent years believing the silence between us was final, that there was no going back. But I was wrong. My mother never left me, even when she didn't answer my letters, even when I thought she had given up on me. She was still there, waiting, sowing hope in silence, forgiving me long before I found the courage to ask for it. Ethan showed me that real friendship knows how to wait. Lauren proved to me that even hurt feelings still know how to love. The children at the warehouse taught me that dance is not about technique, it's about truth. And my mother showed me that a mother's love is the only one that dances with you even in the dark, even in your mistakes, even in your absence. Today I teach, but more than that, I listen. I listen to every gesture, every glance, every silence, because sometimes what we need most is someone who will take our hand and ask, "Do you want to dance with me, even though you left everything behind?" If you've made it this far, thank you. Truly. If this story touched you, If it made you think of someone who needs to hear a "forgive me" or an "I'm still waiting for you," share it. Speak up. Don't wait 7 years to come home. Sometimes love is just waiting for one step. And maybe, just maybe, that step is a dance.